Food safety. How safe is our food? This might be one of the most important questions that we don't ask ourselves. How many of us really know where our food comes from and what has happened to that food from the point in which it was produced or made or grown to the point where it ends up on our grocery store shelves? Americans believe that the food they purchase is safe, and we assume that the facilities in which those foods are prepared are sanitary and contaminant free. It is government's job to make sure of that. However, we also know that it would be impossible to inspect every single food product, every single food production facility, and we also know that we are hearing more and more about contamination issues that are leading to food recalls, and worse yet, leading to people becoming sick, possibly sometimes people dying from that contamination. Every year, 1 in 6 Americans, or that roughly equates to 48 million people, get sick. 128,000 are hospitalized and 3,000 die from foodborne illnesses. Now you might say 3,000, that's not that much, but you're talking about something that could be easily prevented. Media coverage of outbreaks of foodborne illnesses on cruise ships, death from E. coli infection, the recall of products contaminated with salmonella, botulism, they raise public concern about the safety of our food. And the goal of current food safety policy in the United States is to prevent foodborne illness, not just react to the contamination after the problem occurs. But because food can be contaminated anywhere in the supply chain, from the point where it was actually grown or raised to anywhere in the point where it's processed, figuring out where the contamination takes place, what exactly the contamination is, what kind of microorganism it is. By the time we figure all that out, hundreds and hundreds of people are getting sick because they're still consuming that food before we can get them off the shelf. So this week you're really going to look at how food is produced, some of the common food contaminants that there are and what it does to your health if you consume it, if you get salmonella poisoning, and why is E. coli so dangerous. You're going to look at how to identify or make environmentally conscious decisions that minimize your exposure to potentially contaminated foods, and look at some food safety standards. There is a growing debate in this country about who is responsible for keeping our food safe. Many people believe that it is our responsibility as the consumer to be educated enough to know what we should or shouldn't be consuming. And then on the other side of it, people argue that it's government's job to make sure that the food that we are eating is safe and contaminant free. I think realistically the answer lies someplace in between. We as consumers need to start educating ourselves about the food processing process and what's happening in that supply chain, and we also need to be able to rely or trust that our government is conducting the inspections that they need to, and that the food industry is being monitored in a way that keeps us all safe.